You don't explode when life gets hard. You don't write long messages explaining what you're feeling. You don't call everyone you know. You don't dramatize it. You go quiet, and that quiet gets misunderstood. People assume you're upset with them. They think you're distancing yourself. They label it cold, moody, detached. But what if that silence isn't rejection? What if it's regulation? When stress hits, the nervous system looks for safety. Some people regulate through connection. They talk it out. They stay close. They process externally. Others regulate through containment. Less input, less noise, less emotional demand. Psychology often describes this as internal emotion regulation. Processing first, expressing later. You don't speak to understand. You understand before you speak. And when life feels unstable, your system narrows its window of tolerance, the range where you can think clearly, respond calmly, and stay emotionally balanced. When that window shrinks, even normal interaction feels overwhelming. Small talk feels exhausting. Questions feel intrusive. Advice feels like pressure. So you lower the volume, not dramatically. No announcement, just quiet. Here's the part people miss. Silence is control when life isn't. When circumstances feel chaotic, silence becomes one of the few things you can manage. You can't control outcomes. You can't control how others behave, but you can control your exposure. You can choose how much you explain, how much you reveal, how much you absorb. And sometimes absorbing less is the only way to stay steady. There's also something deeper happening beneath the surface. You don't want to talk about something you haven't organized internally. Some people think out loud. You think inward. You need space to sit with the emotion before you label it, before you translate it into words, before you hand it to someone else. That delay isn't secrecy. It's clarity. You stabilize first, then you speak. Read that again. You stabilize first, then you speak. Often there's history behind this pattern. Maybe when you opened up in the past, you were minimized. Maybe someone rushed to fix you instead of hearing you. Maybe your vulnerability was misunderstood, judged, or dismissed. So your system adapted. Protect first. This isn't pride, it's memory. The nervous system remembers what felt unsafe, and when stress rises again, it defaults to what once kept you intact. Containment. People who go silent under pressure often feel deeply. They just don't perform their pain. They don't leak it into every room. They don't broadcast it in real time. They contain it. Containment isn't emotional distance. It's self-preservation. Inside that quiet, there's processing happening. You're replaying conversations, reframing thoughts, sorting through layers of feeling. There's a lot happening. It's just not visible. The world is comfortable with loud emotion. It knows how to respond to visible tears, anger, dramatic expression. It doesn't always know what to do with someone who withdraws calmly, so it mislabels it. Distance, detachment, lack of care. But this is the difference. Withdrawal to avoid is different from withdrawal to regulate. Avoidance runs from discomfort. Regulation pauses to handle it. If you go silent when life gets hard, it likely means your system needs internal stability before external engagement. You're not shutting people out. You're preventing emotional overflow. And there's another layer. Sometimes you don't want to burden others. When things feel heavy, you instinctively handle it yourself, not because you don't need support, but because independence became your coping strategy. Maybe you learned early that relying on others wasn't reliable. Maybe you became the stable one in your family, the calm one, the responsible one. So when you struggle, you default to self-containment. You don't want to disrupt anyone else. You don't want to become the emotional center of attention. You go quiet and deal with it privately. There's strength in that. But there's also isolation, because while you're regulating, others may interpret your silence as disinterest. That gap creates tension. They want reassurance. You want space. They want connection. You want stability. Neither is wrong. They're just different nervous system strategies. Some people discharge stress through expression. Others discharge it through reduction. Reduction of input. Reduction of exposure. Reduction of emotional demand. When life gets hard, your body isn't asking for more stimulation. It's asking for less. Less explaining. Less performing. Less reacting. And that doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough not to speak from chaos. There's something disciplined about that. You refuse to let your rawest emotions spill uncontrolled. You hold them until you can handle them responsibly. You don't want your pain to become someone else's burden. You don't want your stress to become someone else's confusion. So you pause. And in that pause, something important happens. You reorganize. Your brain starts stitching together context. Your nervous system slowly widens its tolerance again. Your thoughts settle. And when you return clearer. That's why people who go silent often reappear stronger. They didn't disappear to escape. They disappeared to recalibrate. But because silence is subtle, it's easy to misread, especially in a world that rewards constant visibility. We're taught that healthy communication means immediate expression, that emotional maturity means instant transparency. But for some people, maturity looks different. It looks like restraint. It looks like taking time before speaking. It looks like not reacting in the heat of stress. Psychology often refers to this as delayed emotional processing, allowing the nervous system to settle before engaging socially. It's not suppression. Suppression buries emotion. Regulation stabilizes it. You're not pretending nothing hurts. You're making sure you don't respond from a place of overwhelm. That distinction matters. And sometimes you wish others understood that. You wish they didn't interpret your quiet as punishment. You wish they didn't demand immediate access to your internal world. Because when you go quiet, you're not trying to create distance. You're trying to prevent damage. You know what you're like when overstimulated. You know that if you push yourself to talk before you're ready, it comes out sharp, defensive. Then you reconnect. Then you explain. Then you re-engage. And you do it calmly. People may never see the internal work that happened in that silence. They won't see the nights you spent processing, the quiet moments you used to regulate yourself, the discipline it took not to react impulsively. They'll only see that you were quiet. But now you know what that quiet really is. It's not withdrawal from life. It's protection of your nervous system. It's a reset. It's a boundary. And once you understand that about yourself, you stop apologizing for it. You stop labeling it as coldness. You stop forcing yourself to speak before you're ready because you realize something important. You don't disappear when life gets hard. You retreat to recover. And that difference changes everything.